Welcome everybody to the third class in our Community Resilience Leadership Series, our pilot program with many partners so far. Thanks for coming tonight. We're going to dive right into our agenda. And I want to thank all the partners and the sponsors for the program. This is a pilot program, the first time we're doing it, connecting leaders who are building community resilience in their neighborhoods, in their organizations, and on a large scale in resilience hubs. This is the third of 4 classes. Tonight's topic is going to be community mutual support. We're going to be talking about housing and food and health and sharing tools. Just to say, these resilience themes apply anywhere, but the stories we're telling are from the San Francisco South Bay. I'm going to go quickly through this because this is a repeat for people who've been through it before, but it's important orientation for people who are coming to the class for the first time. Let's start with acknowledging the original stewards of this land, the original indigenous stewards of this beautiful land in Northern California. If you'd like to learn more about who these stewards are, check out this wonderful website at nativelands.ca. And we hope that this class honors their stewardship and our stewardship and everyone's stewardship together to help keep this beautiful region a wonderful place to live. First, here's a quick context on what we mean by resilience. It's a new word for some people, and it means different things to anybody. Here's an official definition of the ability to bounce forward after a shock or a stressor to build stronger, more prosperous, more healthy communities. Any kind of word for the community that you want to live in can be considered resilience. I call it a one-word label for many different visions. And resilient regions are the tipping point for building resilient communities within them and influencing the resilience of the larger scale systems that are harder and slower to move at the national and global level. So this work we're doing at a regional level is really important. We're using a model of 3 levels of resilient places, the places where you live and work, and starting in your neighborhood. So some people are here as individuals who may want to be just organizing their neighbor groups or the blocks in their apartment building or their Rotary Club. So any place that doesn't have a shared facility can still organize to build resilience. The next level of resilience are people who are leaders in sites that might be schools or places of worship that exist for some other main purpose, but they've decided that they want to build resilience around their site. So they're hosting some programs at the site. And then there are groups that are focusing at a higher level, more full-time on being a resilience hub. They're doing multi-purpose programs open to the public. And there's a couple different models for those at the national level. The Urban Sustainability Directors Network has a model for resilience hubs. I like to say it's a 64-page document that describes what they are. So this link here, when I send you the slides, and I will send you the slides later so you can be able to click on the link. California has a newer definition of hubs that we call community resilience centers that's being organized by the Strategic Growth Council. And that's a very important model. It's distributing a lot of funding now in California, and here in the Bay Area, there's a program starting to support building community resilience centers in the South Bay. Sometimes these centers are not just a single site, they're often collaborations between multiple sites. So you might have a school and a church and any other organization form a partnership to provide services together. And we're going to be organizing at this level of resilient place in our first organizing breakouts, which I'll talk about in a minute. Here's some of the kinds of different programs that are run at these different levels of groups, just to give you an idea of the scale of what happens there. Just let you read for a minute. There's kind of a fuzzy boundary between sites and hubs. Sites can be big sites that may not really consider themselves a hub, but they are. And that's exactly what we're trying to support in this class that we have. We're encouraging people to take the next step in developing their programs and their services. And here we are tonight with Community Mutual Support. I'm here with a rock star team of incredible people who are going to be sharing some great stories about several different areas. Similar goals as the other sessions. We want to learn more about what's going on, get to know each other in breakout groups. And we have a special agenda for this class to have anyone who hasn't taken the registration survey take that as we're waiting to get into breakout groups. There's a link for it in the chat. Susan will keep putting the link there. It's just going to take a couple minutes, and it lets us know who you are and where you're here from, and whether we can share your contact information with the other people in the class. So this completes the program overview. We're going to move into a couple sets of stories next, then do some breakouts, another set of stories, breakouts, and then we'll close by 8. And we will share the video afterwards and the slides. And if anyone has questions, we invite you to put them in the chat, and we will try to address them in the main group if we can, or if not, in the breakout sessions. And I should introduce myself next. So let me do that, because I'm going to put on a new hat and reintroduce myself as Leslie Meehan. I am one of the board members of the Silicon Valley Interreligious Council, and I'm the catalyst for this class because I have been doing resilience work, organizing networks of resilience leaders around the country for quite a few years. So that's brought me to bring everybody together here, and I'm very happy everybody's here. And I'm going to put a different hat on tonight to also tell the story of houselessness in Silicon Valley, which is such a crucial community crisis here. It's an overwhelming problem. And I'm telling the story because in talking with the team, we weren't quite sure who could come tell us a story that would have resources to help us answer people's questions, or be able to say, yes, you can call me if you have someone who's houseless that needs help. It's just not that simple a problem. It's really complicated. And my civic friends and I have been on a journey for many years of learning more about this situation. So we want to take you on the journey with us. We've been learning, a main way we've been learning is we have been hosting every December a memorial service for the people who've died on the streets of Santa Clara County. This past year in 2022, 246 people died on the streets. So we work with housing advocates to make little tombstones with each person's name and age on it. And then people from different faith communities come together to perform a service where the houseless community can come together to honor their friends who have died. And we also give out a lot of food and supplies during that whole event. This year, over 10,000 people have no shelter every night, like tonight. So let's take a breath here and just let that sink in for a minute. So where do you begin with a situation like that? And that's what we've been asking ourselves, and we've been putting some information together. So I'm going to actually take you now to the resource map that we've built on the Silicon Valley site. Here are the themes we're going to be talking about, but I'll show it to you on the website instead of a deck. So let me just switch to do that right now. So this is the website that you came to sign up for the class. There's a resource section, and this is where the videos and slide decks and all the material from the class is going to go. We're in the process of putting it up there right now. And we have this information about homelessness in Silicon Valley up there already because it's come from the work we've been doing. And here's some overall information. I'm just going to walk you through this pretty quickly so you can come look yourself. But I was just shocked to learn that the vast majority of people who are houseless are from this area. Most of them, 77%, have been houseless just for less than 2 years. And they've lost their houses suddenly due to job loss or divorce or eviction. And it's families and veterans and women escaping domestic violence. And when we were last looking at these statistics, there were 4,000 San Jose State students that were houseless. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. So what do we do? And how do we build a Silicon Valley where no one lives outside? And we learned that there is a plan that has been organized with many partners by a collective impact hub called Destination Home. This link will take you to their website. And there are thousands of people across hundreds of organizations that are working on addressing houselessness, this houselessness crisis. So I'm going to recommend that you start at their website, and they have a great page on understanding homelessness, a lot of information about the plan to end homelessness, and they're using three strategies: getting to the root causes through system and policy change, expanding the prevention program and housing programs to meet the need, and improving the quality of life for people who are unsheltered today. We just went, many of us, to a session last week led by, I think it's 19 or 20 coalition group that's anchored by Destination Home and Sacred Heart, that's working on preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place. This is the link to that website, and there's a lot of incredible information there. So first you'll learn and see who's who, because there's a lot out there, and then you can figure out how you can get involved. Here's another link that's another page on the website I'll take you to in a minute. That's examples of things that you can do to make a difference for someone who's houseless today. And if you want to get involved in helping to create more permanent housing, Destination Home has a Housing Ready program. And check that out. They have ambassadors. You can sign up to be an ambassador. And this May happens to be Affordable Housing Month, hosted by Silicon Valley at Home. And they have a lot of events all month long. So click on this, go to an event and learn more. I highly recommend that as the first place to begin. And the service page gives you an example of ways that you can help when you're feeling helpless or confused, things that you can do. And here are places to volunteer. And we have a couple stories next of groups that are hosting services for people that you could volunteer at. So let me turn the mic over to, let's start with Sukhdev. I want to introduce Sukhdev Bainiwal from the Sikh Gurdwara. They have an incredible program, so please tell us more, Sukhdev.
Oh, I'm under pressure now. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sukhdev, one of the board members at Sikh Gurdwara San Jose. And I want to share today with you guys the program about Langar. Let me get to the initials. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's serving the meals to those in need. Want to start out with Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikh religion. He had three golden rules: Kirt karo, earn an honest living; Vand shako, share those earnings with those in need; and always remember God. And the story of Langar is here. You could see a picture of Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism. He is feeding some sadhus that it should be gave birth to Langar in Sikhism. Sorry about that. So there's a typo there. The story is Guru Nanak's dad gave him 20 rupees when he was about 15-year-old, to go start his own business in the town. So when he was going to the town to start a business, he saw some people in need. What he did with those 20 rupees was he bought some food and then started serving to those in need. And then he uh, came back home, and his dad asked him, "Did you start a business?" He says, "Yes, I started a really good business." And he says, "Okay, what is that?" He says, "I fed some people who are in need, and spiritually, that's the right thing to do. Use those earnings there." And from there on, Langar was started, uh, and the Langar spirit has been continued on throughout the world, serving. It's a free community kitchen that serves free meals, not only to the community itself, but also those that are in need. So Langar serves two purposes. One is, sitting with the community and sharing a meal together, and also serving to those that are in need. So the Langar is in full speed in spirit at the San Jose Gurdwara. If you go to any Gurdwara, which is if everybody does know, Gurdwara means Guru Dwara. It's the house of the Guru. Dwara means house, and Gur means Guru. So that's where all the Sikhs or anybody's welcome to the Guru's house. Um, and it's open to everyone, regardless who you are. You're welcome to come and have a hot meal that's served daily there. At the San Jose Gurdwara itself, we serve daily meals starting around, I would say, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily, to 700 to 800 meals daily, Monday through Saturday. And then Sundays is a bigger day when a big congregation also comes and joins in those meals, also about 3,000 meals on Sundays. And then on a bi-weekly manner, we on Saturdays we serve about 200 meals. We make food packets and take it out to the streets where those that are in need of food. We go and find those people, and then we hand them a free meal. We have also served at different shelters, hot meals. Some of the bigger things that we usually do is during any type of disaster throughout the world, you will hear or see if there's a need, in India, or we served in Europe or in the U.S. itself, right? When the disasters happen, as the introduction said, when other or the government cannot go and do that right away, we're there, the first ones to go and serve meals. We have done this when the fires were there in Santa Rosa, when floods were here in San Jose a few years ago. Then we partner with the city to provide some meals here. During COVID, in that same spirit, there's food and then masks, sanitizers when there were shortages. We try to provide that. In India, there was one special type of langar was oxygen. We were saying oxygen langars also were given. Were from here, the U.S. We had sent around 40 oxygen concentrators when people were there was shortage of oxygen for those who had COVID and couldn't breathe. We were providing some of those through the temples over there. Just showing some pictures of, so langar is basically food plus anything else. Here's a picture here where we were giving out blankets, usually in December time. We have given to shelters like Home First. I know at one time we had given about 1,000 blankets. And then this one, this picture here is at Alum Rock Shelter, Catholic Charities there. And this meals, before COVID, we also served at meals at the shelters, different shelters in downtown, or we have gone to the St. James Park also a few times. So basically, in spirit of langar, we try to do, and it's all volunteer. You give a call to the community, saying, okay, hey, we're going to do so and so task, and you see items coming in, or this shelter here on Alum Rock, we would have lines of people or families who want to sponsor. They say, okay, we want to sponsor, and we want okay, say, okay, we can't give it to you this month, so you can take this one. So that spirit is like fulfilled in the Sikh community, and we take that Guru's spirit and provide those that are in need at different times. I think, sorry, a short presentation on langar, but that is one. But if you say, you talked about resilience, we are one of those sites. I would say we not only have free meals, we have a free a clinic also, Guru Nanak medical clinic. On Sundays, it's open to anyone who doesn't have insurance or who needs advice. We have volunteer doctors coming in, providing medical. Now we're going more into mental illness also. We're going to have a seminar. I think Leslie will be able to provide you some information on that. May 7th, we will have a seminar there on mental illness also. So trying to take care of the community before things get worse on the mental side also. Sorry, that's the short thing. I think I'm out of time also, but the Gurdwara wants to partner with others when those needs do come. Please reach out to us so we can provide the needed essentials or whatever at the right time to the right people. I think that's where we kind of lack, trying to find that right place to provide those meals. And I think this group will be a big help to us. If you guys, we can get your contact, or you contact us anytime you need. I'm open to coordinate any type of disaster type of, hopefully we don't get into that, but if it does happen, we need to take care of our community. Thank you. Any questions? I can answer those.
Thank you, Sukhdev.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please put them in the in the chat or chat with him in a breakout room. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And now we'll go to Reverend Melanie, who is the pastor at Skyland Church and involved in different clergy networks. So please tell us your story, Melanie.
Sure, I'm actually telling other people's stories because while I'm a big cheerleader for the work that we do, there are people on the ground that actually do the work. But here's a short history. Well, I'm Melanie Weiner. I'm the pastor at Skyland Community Church. I've been there almost 3 years. I figure I'll be the new pastor for another, until I retire. Um, for many, many years, decades actually, the church has had a food pantry that was one cabinet, or maybe it was two, in the kitchen, and people could access it whenever there was someone at the church to let them in. So Sunday after church, whenever the pastor was around, or whenever the coordinator was around, people could come and get food. But as you may know, hunger isn't confined to Sunday after church or whenever someone happens to be at the church. So a member of our church began asking, what if we moved the contents of this cabinet outside and made it available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays, middle of the night, when hungry people who may be working a lot of jobs or may not want people to know that they're hungry could come and get what they need, in a time convenient to them. And so somebody donated a toy box, and people put this toy box up on legs, and it became the Little Free Pantry, the Skyland Church Little Free Pantry. And I'll show you some pictures. Let me just start the share. This first picture is the inside of the Little Free Pantry box at the time we started sharing food outside, or around that time. We noticed that it emptied quite quickly, so we started building up volunteers who would fill this box basically every day. We've used it for other things. We put in community information. We put in voting applications during voting application season, and other sorts of things. And as time went on, the need built up, but also sources built up. And we began using the inside of our social hall called Whitaker Hall to store the food that would be taken out to the outside box. Plus, we had set times when people could come inside and shop, and it was all laid out on shelves. We had grocery bags, very much like shopping, except there was no one to take money. So people just came in, got what they needed. We encouraged people to take food for a day or two because so many people were in need. We wanted to make sure that there'd be something for everyone. And if you come and take all the bags of sugar, the next person's not going to get any sugar. So we would refill every day, and ask people to take a day or two worth of whatever they needed. Here's that Little Free Pantry box from the outside, and you can see the growth. Now it has boxes under it with canned goods. There's other shelf-stable stuff inside that Little Free Pantry box. There's a cooler because we started having fresh produce, and the boxes on the left also have fresh produce in them. You can see the box of toilet paper, which was in short supply, as we all remember, for a while. And as we began to realize how much need there was, people in our church one in particular who coordinates began to pull in other resources, and we started having refrigerators also. These are refrigerators standing outside, actually right up against the side of our sanctuary, along with many boxes of fresh produce. And this is in addition to the boxes you just saw up on our porch. As this has grown through the last few years, we've actually cleaned out a shed. You know, when churches or probably any house of faith has a shed, it collects things, and it collects things for decades. And some of our members came in and did amazing work, cleaned it all out. We had a lot of repair work done to it, the foundation rebuilt. And now the inside of that is where we store all of the food that is not outside in the 24/7 pantry. It has, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I see at least one of our volunteers here, 4 refrigerators inside, and we have 2 refrigerators outside. And then shelves and shelves and shelves of food. So we grew from this little tiny box and a few volunteers. We now have about 50 volunteers, and a large number of providers from both the Santa Cruz side of the hill and the Santa Clara side of the hill. And we think we're feeding between 200 and 300 families. That's just whose names we know. And trying to get them to other resources as well as we can. After the shed was built, and there's now a cover over this part of the pantry and cabinets, we had a get-together for many of our volunteers. So you can see this is a large chunk of the volunteers who do the work. And these are some really special people. And I'd just like to let you know, we're quite a small church. More than half of the volunteers that run our pantry, that are on our grounds every day doing the work of keeping this pantry going and having a passion for feeding people out in the world, are not members of our church. They're coming out of the goodness of their heart, out of whatever their faith tells them to do. They're not members of our church, but they're definitely members of our community. And they're helping us to remember that church isn't who's in the pews on Sunday, or it isn't only who's in the pews on Sunday, but who's doing God's work in the community by whatever name we call God or don't call God. Let me stop that share. So we've had some growing edges along the way as we've expanded quickly and needed to find resources to sustain what we're doing. But the one edge we run into is on and over again is how to help people who are unhoused. And so, you know, I'm here, I can, or the volunteers at the church really can help anyone understand how to have a 24/7 food pantry that mostly works most of the time. But I'm here to get some information about how we help these people who don't have homes. You know, because we can fill a stomach, but that doesn't get to the root problem of why there are hungry people in our community and why there are people living outside in our community. So thank you for the time. If you have any questions, I'll be in a breakout room somewhere.
Thank you, Melanie. And that's actually the theme for our breakout session, is that I will be moving us into here in just a minute to understand. Let me go ahead and bring the slides back up again. There we go. So we're going to break into groups based on our size of the type of community that we're trying to take care of, whether we're neighbors or organized around a site with a facility or a larger hub. And to discover what mutual support work are you involved in, if any, and what successes and struggles are you having in finding or providing mutual support in any of these areas? And do you have any successful advice for where to refer people, particularly for housing? Because I've been in many conversations where, yes, there are numbers that you can call, but they're overwhelmed. And so people often are not able to be helped by these resources. So any kind of sharing our wisdom about that experience and any tips and suggestions, and see what we can learn together. So let's start that conversation in this next breakout session. A reminder about our team agreement, just to speak respectfully with confidentiality. And if you tend to speak more, please step back. If you tend to speak less, consider stepping up. That's what step up, step back is. And I'm going to invite Susan to go ahead and get us started in our breakout groups. Welcome back from your breakouts, everybody. Sounds like you had great conversations, and we're going to have some more great stories and conversations, starting with Kathy and Rabbi Hugh here to talk about the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Is that right? I should have
National Alliance on Mental Illness.
on mental illness.
NAMI is the acronym.
Yeah. And then Tom Llewellyn, we're talking about sharing tools from Shareable. And then I'm going to do a short story on my favorite tools for group communication. So let me stop my share and turn the mic over to my new friend, Kathy Forward. Thank you so much for speaking with us tonight, and Rabbi Hugh to talk about mental health resources. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you for having us. And it's very appropriate because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So how many of you know anything about NAMI? Raise your hand. A few people. Okay, good. So yes, we're a peer-led organization. All of our services are free to the community. And we come from various backgrounds, but we're family members or we're people who have lived experience with a mental health condition. I came to NAMI in 1997 when the first class was offered to families. My sister had a serious mental illness for many years, but when my son started showing signs of having problems as a junior in high school, I thought he mainly had a drug problem using marijuana, and I found out he had both bipolar and substance use disorder. So I joined NAMI's first class. It was a godsend. I tell people that just because it's in your family doesn't mean you know anything about it. I got an education, I met other families, and I learned that I had a lot of misjudgments and misunderstandings. I thought medications were magic pills, that if people were just doing treatment therapy, you know, everything would be fine, but it doesn't work that way. So that's how I came to NAMI, and I tell everybody first and foremost, I'm a family member. I've been here all these years. I've had various positions. I was the executive director for about 7 years. I retired in 2020, but I'm still here as a consultant and teaching classes and a lot of things behind the scene. So Rabbi Hugh?
Yeah, so it's great to be with you all. I feel like I'm sort of in overlapping capacities. I'm connected with Civic. I work at the Jewish Silicon Valley, which I think has the potential to become a resilience hub. But I'm really here tonight as a family member. My daughter, in particular, had some significant challenges through COVID and the lockdown that involved some moments of real crisis and some hospitalization. And dual diagnosis with substance abuse issues and borderline personality disorder. I'll echo your words, Kathy. For me, the connection to the Family to Family program was a godsend. Kathy was actually the instructor in the class that my wife and I took, which was really powerful in terms of a sense of fellow feeling and connection to others with shared lived experience. It can be very isolating and extremely disorienting to to parent. I think to be in a relationship with a loved one going through mental health crisis, and that was certainly the case for us. And that sense of fellow feeling was pretty profound. So turn it back to you, I think, Kathy. And we'll go
Okay,
from there.
so let me share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so you just learned a little bit about us. We know that mental health matters. It affects a person's thinking, feeling, behaviors, and moods, as well as your daily living, relationships to others at work, family, community. And it's far more common than we think. 1 in 5 adults in the US experience a mental illness every year, and 1 in 20 experience serious mental illness. And the average delay between the onset of mental illness and actually getting treatment is 11 years. And that's because of the stigma and discrimination that still exists. It's getting better. And these are just some mental health conditions. I'm not going to read through all of them. Depression, anxiety are probably the ones most people can relate to, and there's more talk about it, but there are several others. So we envision a world where all people who are affected by mental illness can live healthy, fulfilling lives and supported by community who cares. We provide advocacy, education, support, public awareness for all individuals and families who are affected by mental illness, so we can build better lives. So we know that recovery and wellness are possible, and that's what we work on as a wellness and recovery model. And we embrace diverse backgrounds, cultures. We know that mental illness does not discriminate, doesn't care what race or religion, whether you're wealthy or not, your politics, it affects everyone. And we do this through inclusion, again, teaching people about the wellness and recovery model and learning good skills. And we show respect, kindness, and empathy and fight for equity and justice. I tell everybody at the end of the class, and Rabbi Hugh can tell you this, that after they take the classes, I tell them you're all advocates now, whether you like it or not, because you do know something. So again, we do this through support and education, mental health awareness, and trying to build better lives. So we do have programs for people with the mental health conditions, the Connection Support Group. We have 4 a week now. We had 1 before COVID, and now we have 4 a week. On Sunday, it is a hybrid where you can come in person and they have people online, but the rest of them are on Zoom. We have a peer-to-peer education course. Again, this is a really valuable tool for people who have mental health challenges to be taught by their peers who are trained in a scripted nationwide model so that everybody is getting the same information. And we have it in English and Spanish. And then we also have a community peer program. This is local to our affiliate where we do mentoring. People who graduated from the peer-to-peer course and get extra training will mentor someone for up to 4 months who wants to work on their wellness and recovery. 2 phone calls a week and 1 in person, and they leave with a lot of resources. This is more about that program. For families, we have the support groups as well as the education class. And you can see we have them in several languages. And again, the education class, I'm a teacher of that. Helpline, this is something that is available to the public. We encourage people to call us, or you can come in now. We opened again from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. but we do have people on the phone or email between 10 and 6, Monday through Friday, except holidays. And we do have after-hours support. People can call and leave a voicemail and someone will call them back to give them support. We do presentations for the public. These are available to you in your, congregations or community centers, wherever you're involved. Ending the Silence is for schools. For school-age children, we will do it for also churches and, youth groups, middle school, high school. There's a version for students, teachers, and parents. And then we have In Our Own Voice, that 2 people share their lived experience, what happened to them, what helped them, and what their hopes are. And it has a video that goes along with that. And FaithNet. So this is an endeavor to educate the faith leaders and also get, we have a lot of people who've taken our classes who are involved in faith communities to think about starting mental health ministries. And we know that faith leaders are first responders, that like 90% of people who have any kind of issues go to their faith leader for advice and support. And just like they'd recognize someone having a heart attack in front of them, we need prayers, obviously, but we would like to have somebody recognize that this person needs support and help and direction, what kind of resources. So we want to educate the community, and also the people in the community want this very much. And if you open it up to your community, these ministries can start. So we do have a presentation called Mental Health 101 that we can come out and do. And we also do a walk every year. This is our biggest fundraiser. And it'll be October 7th at the History Park. And we encourage people to join us. We don't charge anything for our walk. It's all based on, joining a team and helping us raise money. It's very easy to do. Just send out emails telling people you're walking and ask them to support you. And so that is everything that we do. And I would love to talk to you more about creating these ministries. And I don't know, Rabbi Hugh, if you have something you want to add to it. There's several of them that have started. We started our FaithNet program probably 8 years ago. So we do have several churches that are certified by us now, and temples, faith organizations.
Just the only thing I would add is, the parallel to physical illness, I think is powerful. In the Jewish community, I think we do a good job within synagogue communities of having caring committees, committees that take care of those who are suffering, typically with physical disease and illness, and the community really rallies around them. We do, I think, a less good job of supporting, holding, surrounding families and individuals dealing with mental health issues. So I think there's what to do to improve, in my own community.
Right. Well, your brain is part of your body, and it's a very important organ that controls all of your emotions and a large percentage of your physical activities too. So we've got to learn more about the brain. We don't discriminate, or people who have Parkinson's and dementia and seizure disorders, other brain disorders. But for some reason, I think we've all been kind of trained and maybe even brainwashed that it's mind over matter, with trying to overcome a serious mental health condition. It's like asking someone with a broken leg to run a marathon. So that's our approach too. And we do have a provider education course that many of you might be interested in. It's 15 hours learning about the lived experience of a person, their family, and also creating a collaborative model of care. Mental illness is probably the only medical condition that families are excluded from treatment. There, and it's a recipe for disaster. All this homeless stuff you're seeing is a large part of it is a result of people with mental health challenges living on the street, not getting help, not getting support. So thank you for having us tonight. Did I do good with the time, Leslie?
You're just fabulous. Actually, I just lost track of time. I was so engrossed in what you were saying. Doesn't matter, but I'm sure it's all good. So thank you so much. That was really heartwarming.
We never
So
give up, and we know that recovery is possible, right?
yes, yes. Let me try to be able to see everybody here. There it is. There's that remove pin button. Okay. Hello again, everybody. Thank you. So now we'll turn the mic over to Tom Llewellyn, who is the interim executive director of one of my favorite organizations called Shareable. And they're like a one-stop shop for information about sharing stuff all around the world. And they've got stories and experience and toolkits. And I just am excited to have more people in Silicon Valley understand what Shareable is. And Tom just moved here to the Bonnie Doon area. So now we have him in the South Bay. So we're lucky for that too. Thanks, Tom. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. So yeah, as was mentioned, I live down here in Bonnie Doon. I'm the interim executive director of Shareable. Been with the organization for about 9.5 years at this point. I'm originally from the Bay Area, was born and raised in the East Bay in a small community of about 225 people in the woods behind Oakland called Canyon, just kind of a little secret enclave. And it was from there that I learned to share. In that community, we're an unincorporated part of Contra Costa County. And we pave the roads and maintain the roads collectively. Everyone's a member of a different water cooperative. We kind of have our own community governance system. And we do participatory budgeting for community infrastructure projects. But I would refer to it as a semi-autonomous, unintentional community. Because for the most part, people who live out there own their own homes or are renters. And we choose to work and organize collectively, and also some people choose not to. But it's been a kind of a really amazing place for me to grow up, to continue to grow up. I actually just moved to Bonnie Doon from doing another 3 years out there as I've kind of bounced around places, and am excited to now be in the South Bay, which I've lived in San Francisco, I lived in Oakland, lived in Berkeley, but never down south. So happy to be down here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So I'm just going to kind of get going with share some slides, and hopefully y'all see everything just fine.
Yep, looks good. Thanks.
Great. So as I was that was my story. I forgot to start sharing my slides, but that really kind of that community togetherness really is kind of that sharing of resources, of experiences, of stories. That is kind of the fabric of community. You know, that's where we pass from one person to another. That's how we, there's a saying, a human becomes human through interactions with other humans. I think that was, I just butchered Desmond Tutu. But that's really kind of where I've been most fed, is when I'm in community spaces and when I'm able to collaborate and work with other people. And so Shareable has been around since 2009, and really got started kind of to document the rise of what was began to be known as the sharing economy. And we became the first major publication to tell those stories. And to date, we've published about 4,500 stories about the ways that people are sharing resources around the world. And this is just kind of a small snapshot of, I think this is actually probably, you can see it's from 2022, from about a year ago. But we're, talking about sharing communities in Europe and sharing resources for winter sports. how grocery co-ops across New England thrive despite the pandemic, collective land governance during a changing climate, the slums of Mumbai and how they're a wellspring of innovation and injustice, preschools diversifying their energy, led by the Shinnecock Nation, how to dumpster dive, eat free, and fight waste. So it's really all over the place. And we do advising to city policymakers around the world, support community organizers that are starting initiatives, and we have a lot of resources on our site that I'm going to get to in a moment. But in addition to our publishing, we have several other programs, and one of them is called The Response, where we document the ways that communities are coming together to build collective resilience in the wake of disasters. And this project we began in 2018 on the heels of what had been the most disastrous year in U.S. history in 2017, where there were over 16 major disasters in the country, leading to thousands of lives lost and billions of dollars of damage. And we started to think a lot more. I mean, growing up where I grew up in Canyon, there was, some of the most powerful moments were when things would go wrong, when a bridge would wash out, or the road would flood, or my neighbor's house caught fire, and the community would all rally around in those moments. And it didn't matter what the kind of gripes were, what the long-standing feuds, and all that stuff would wash away, and everybody would show up with their best selves and support each other. And time again, that's what we find, is that when these major disasters happen, like Hurricane Maria, like the Tubbs fire, that most people rise to the occasion most of the time. And we felt like it was a story that was being lost in disasters, that most disasters kind of highlight a few selected heroes, oftentimes people coming from outside of the community, that projecting most of the people in those that have been impacted by those disasters as victims, and then also highlight, sensationalizing violence and criminality that happens during those disasters. And we saw that during Hurricane Katrina is a classic example. And we felt that it was necessary for us to showcase what we really feel like is the real story of those disasters, the people coming together and the kind of collective heroic nature that is the community in those moments. And the community really is the hero in those spaces. And so to date, we've produced, I think, about 13 audio documentaries about various disasters and the community responses. And our audio documentaries air on about 150 radio stations across the United States, Canada, and Australia, also available as a podcast, as I mentioned. And we have a kind of bi-weekly, every other week we have a interview episode that we do, talking to various, sometimes the city leaders, the chief resilience officer for the city of Paris, people that are dealing with trauma on a national scale or an international scale, and also community organizers, people that are starting and running projects on the ground that really are the response. And we also produced a film about Puerto Rico, how Puerto Ricans are restoring power to the people. And it's a 30-minute movie that we went to Puerto Rico a year after Hurricane Maria, and learned about all the different mutual aid centers that had popped up. I mean, true resilience hubs, and kind of the genesis of them. And then also how they kind of pivoted over time to continue to serve their communities, as the recovery challenges changed, and also how they were used as organizing hubs to make sure that they got the political support that they needed moving forward. And so we went back then another year so 2 years after Hurricane Maria as well, before we finished the film. And that film's available on our website. You can find it at theresponsefilm.org. It's also on YouTube, and we now have translated it into, it's in English, but also in Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And we found it's a really great resource for having community meetings, bringing people together, watching the film and talking about ways to kind of adapt things that were happening in Puerto Rico into other communities. And we've had, I think, over 50 or 60 communities have done screenings of that up to this point. I'll go very quickly through a couple of other things. We also have an open lecture series with Tufts University called Cities at Tufts, which is focusing on uplifting diverse perspectives in urban planning. They're free lectures. They happen on Wednesdays. We just had our last one of the spring semester, but on our website, you can find the recordings for all of them. We release the audio as a podcast, also the video from the presentations. You can see we do graphic recordings of them as well, and the transcripts, human edited transcripts of the lectures to make them as accessible as possible. We also lead communications for the Rural Power Coalition. And with that coalition, we are supporting the kind of just transition of rural electric cooperatives, which serve 42 million member owners across the United States, to be able to transition to rural electricity. And last year, we were successful at getting $10 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act to support that transition. It's just 10% of what's needed overall, but an amazing investment in that. But some of the things that I wanted to really focus on in the few moments that I have is some of the kind of organizing tools that we have at Shareable. And one of them that I want to highlight is our mapping tools. So in 2013, we started supporting communities with doing community asset mapping projects through our campaign that we call Map Jams. And the idea of the Map Jams is that we would essentially, we created a toolkit and invited people to host community asset mapping parties to make them fun and engaging. And in that first year, 50 groups came together over the course of a 2-week period all over the world to make public digital asset maps. And oftentimes it was a handful of people. This is a picture alongside of a group in Lebanon. Just came together, brought their computers, and thought about all the different resources that they knew about. And here's another example of what the maps look like. This is one from Solidarity New York City, which has built a whole website around their map. And can be a really fun activity. Oftentimes the Map Jams will, over the course of about 3 hours, you're able to create your first draft of your map. So essentially, in an evening like this tonight, you could create, by the end of that evening, you could have a first draft of a publicly visible map. And then we add forms onto them. So when people see it and say, hey, but what about this thing? Well, there's a form to add that. And there's an easy way then to upload that additional data point onto the map. And we've got tutorials on Shareable about how to do that. And both how to host a map jam, and then also the nitty gritty of using the mapping tools. And all of the tools that we promote are free and as accessible as possible. And sometimes, coming on the back of the heels of the Map Jams, and up to date, we've worked with groups in over 100 cities around the world now to map out their assets. And what I got brought into Shareable to do, I actually was one of those first volunteer mappers. And I was living in Asheville, North Carolina, and in 2013, hosted a map jam in my home. We had about 25 people show up. The local paper came and covered it. And we produced, that evening, our map had 100 locations on it by the time we were done. And so I then got brought in to join the Shareable staff in 2014 to be able to support and many of the groups that had just mapped out their resources to host community sharing festivals that would then make visible all of those items, or as many of those items as possible, that we were putting on the map. And that year we had about 40 sharing festivals, and many of them continued to go with from year after year without having any involvement from us at all, which was exactly what we were hoping to see, that sort of inspiration. And this is an image from one that we did in 2019. There's me filling a stone soup pot. And that's one of the things that I do, is I travel around and lead big community stone soups. And so we did a full weekend of events in the city of Monterey. This is one of the largest suburbs of Paris. And the organizers got really excited. They did a whole mapping, and we have a book that's free on our website called Sharing Cities, Activating the Urban Commons. And they translated our book into French. And they brought me out for this full weekend of sharing festivals. And the first night, I got to sit down and have dinner with the mayor. And it was myself and the lead organizer of the organization that was putting on this event. And we went and had a nice dinner, and we talked about how, what we thought that could work in the city of Monterey. And what we landed on was a tool library. And I'm a little biased because I co-founded a tool library in Asheville, North Carolina, and I think they're amazing. And if you're not familiar with them, they're essentially like regular libraries, but instead of books, you can check out all kinds of tools. Could be gardening tools, plumbing, carpentry. Oftentimes they have other items, kitchen items, and there's larger libraries of things. And so we were talking about it and got kind of excited about it, but we were just sharing ideas back and forth. And the next day we had a kind of summit, which had a number of city leaders, heads of nonprofits, faith groups. There was a number of like the chief resilience officer for the city of Paris came, other people from the Paris region all joined for a single day. And we had about 60 of us in the main hall at the Monterey City Center, and in concentric circles. And so everybody that got up and spoke got in the middle of the circle and spoke to everybody, and we did a fishbowl also. And so I think I was the only person that spoke in English. Everybody else was in French, so I had a translator in my ear the whole time. And at the end, the mayor came to speak, and he'd been going in and out throughout the day because he had various public business and everything. And he pointed at me. He got in the middle of the circle. He pointed me out and said, "Hey, did you talk about that tool library idea?" And I said, "I didn't." He said, "All right." And he stood in front of everybody for about 10 seconds, just thinking. He said, "Okay." And he proclaimed right there in front of everybody that they were going to start a tool library, and the city was going to get behind it, and that Sylvain, the lead organizer of the event, was going to run it, which Sylvain didn't know he was going to get voluntold in that moment, but it worked out quite well. And so then the next day we had a huge sharing festival where there was actually 150 activities over 70 locations throughout the entire city. And at the end and so it was all the different nonprofits. There was, open houses all over the place with all different types of people. I mean, in the favelas, like in the slum neighborhoods were participating. There was street festivals. There were people doing clothing swaps and items. Like the entire city was activated on that one day. There was a big map and guides, and the media got behind it. It was a whole huge city. It was the biggest sharing festival that I, know about on the planet. And but we ended up doing a big stone soup that evening. There was a concert. It kind of culminated in the concert in the town square, which thousands of people showed up to, and that was the big day. And then the work began on the tool library. And over the course of a couple of years, it got slowed because of COVID. It grew from a tool library into a library of things with camping equipment and kitchen equipment and toys and all sorts of things. And the city said, "Hey, we've got this 3-story old medical building. Like, can you take this over?" And so they did. And now it's a sharing hub. I mean, it is really a resilience hub. And it has the library of things. It has a permanent repair cafe set up. So there's 2 days a week that people can bring in their broken appliances and get help. They get, for free. It's the only permanent free permanent repair cafe that I know about on the planet. There's a wood shop. There's also like a large free book library. There's music recording studios in the basement. There's an event space. There's like just classes space, a photography studio, a textile studio, and various artist residencies spaces. And it's become this amazing community center. And Shareable's been a part of kind of initiating and working on developing that. And so that's kind of where all these different pieces, I mean, that project in itself integrates probably about 4 or 5 of our programs all in one space. And so it got us really excited about wanting to do more of that. And this is, I was here, it was last October that we finally had the big grand opening. And there's the mayor in the middle. And right, he's looking at somebody from the city region. A lot of the project was actually funded with money from a participatory budgeting project. And you can see me there. And then Sylvain, the lead organizer, is on the left, kind of behind me, holding the microphone. And we had just detangled the cords. Was instead of cutting the ribbon, they tied up cords for 2 different drills, and we detangled the cords and opened the doors. And it's just an amazing space right in the center of the city of Monterey. So we're now launching a new program to essentially develop more community kind of social infrastructure. And the new program is called Solidarity Works. And it's going to have 2 kind of major projects. One is larger community infrastructure initiatives. So things that are capital intensive, that require either a lot of social capital, physical capital, financial capital, or all of the above. And that's going to be a year-long program. And the first one is focusing on libraries of things like this. And it's going to be launching this at the end of the summer. And it's meant to kind of strengthen the existing Library of Things community. There's over 2,000 libraries of things around the world at this point. And then also to seed and support the launch of more libraries of things, primarily in under-resourced, traditionally marginalized communities. And so we'll be running a paid fellowship to be able to, for a number of organizers to be able to start those libraries of things in their communities. And to be able to kind of facilitate the whole thing, we're going to be developing a ultimate guide for starting a library of things with all the different bylaws and all the examples from existing libraries of things, the full gamut, and a video series as well. And then the other one that we're going to be doing is kind of smaller versions of that, so that are about 3 months long, that are focused on things that communities can start with less capital. Some of them might still require some, but not quite as intense as starting a new physical location. And the first one that we're developing is actually to build off of our how-to guides, because we saw a real need that we were putting out all these how-to guides. They were very inspirational, but people would read them and then wouldn't have the support to move forward and actually adapt and replicate those programs in their communities. So we're going to be doing that as well on a smaller scale. And the first one is probably going to be around kind of emergency battery backup collectives, and modeled after one that was launched in Oakland. And so there will be more information on our website about that. And in addition to those, we have over 300 how-to guides on our website. And that's not the last slide. Hold on a second. Wonder why you stopped. There we go. Oh. Come on now. Doesn't want to show you that last slide. Well,
Can you just tell us the story?
I'm going to tell you the story. Well, that was the picture was part of that, but are you able to see it?
No, we're seeing you in front of the flowers.
Oh, we lost my slide. All right. Well, so we've got 300, like I was saying, we've got over 300 how-to guides, and they include things like, legal tools for land return that were developed by the Sustainable Economies Law Center, how to set up a community co-op, how to create a little free community pantry or fridge, how to start a community composting project. And the most recent one was actually how to grow your own toilet paper. So they're kind of all many different aspects of community sharing and resilience.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very powerful story, and lots of possibilities that you've just inspired us by. And I, for one, actually, let me remove the pin and say thank you.
Yeah.
I see lots of possibilities for more sharing activities happening here in the South Bay, sharing festivals, libraries being part of the program. So I'm hoping something inspires people from your presentation, and that they will come talk more about it. either in this session or going forward.
Mhm.
Tom just put the website in there. So thanks very much. I am going to very quickly just share a little information about tools, just so we have enough time to go into the breakouts. My main message is that there's a lot of tools out there that we use that are focused for specific purposes. But I want to encourage people to think about using tools, and they are available to be able to create spaces for groups to work together, to talk and share information beyond organization boundaries, as neighborhoods or networks of groups like this one. Like here we are in our first class. And how did we do it? We have Google account that has lots of information that we're sharing, and we're using Zoom right now for the class. And these are my reliable collaboration go-tos, and anybody can do this, can create their own Google account with their own Google email and get all of the programs and products to go with that, so that you can set up an environment for your group to work in. You can set up your own. You just need somebody who's going to manage the group. Here are some basic ways that I've seen people using tools. My neighbors have a text group that people opt into, and we created it, turns out, right before the CZU fire. And we were using that text group to make sure everybody knew about the evacuation order and to make sure everybody was out. It was so useful, and we're still using it. We just used it in our snowstorm. We've got groups.io up here in the mountains that's got thousands of people on it, just communicating about different things. Nextdoor, most people know about. Slack is used for business, but anybody can set up a free account there too. And there's more sophisticated systems. Yes, Google Mighty Networks is a really good network platform for groups. Hilo, other friends of ours have started. So they're out there. You can use them. Talk to me if you have any particular questions. And we, in this class, have a challenge of sorting out what system do we want to use to keep networked after the class is over. So we'll be talking about that more as we go forward. That's my tools story. You can do it. Go for it.